Would you anchor your army in a harbor if your survival depended entirely on someone else controlling the sea? October 1781, Yorktown, Virginia. General Charles Cornwallis wakes to the sound of artillery. Again, trenches are closing in. Cannon fire echoes day and night. His soldiers are exhausted, starving, running low on ammunition. But Yorktown was never supposed to look like this. He chose it because it was supposed to be safe. And that single belief, that this harbor guaranteed security, would cost Britain an empire. For 8 years, Britain had been fighting a rebellion across 13 colonies. London expected a quick suppression. Instead, the war dragged on, draining money, morale, and manpower. By 1780, British leadership shifted strategy. If the North refused to collapse, the South would be broken. The logic was clear: destroy Virginia, the largest, wealthiest, and most influential colony, and the rebellion might fracture from within. Cornwallis was the man chosen to execute that plan. After hard campaigning in the Carolinas, he entered Virginia confident and aggressive. But campaigning inland required supply. Ammunition, food, reinforcements, all depended on sea access. Cornwallis requested a defensible harbor in the Chesapeake, where the Royal Navy could sustain his army and extract it if necessary. His superior, Sir Henry Clinton, pointed to Yorktown. On a map, it looked ideal: deep water access, river protection, defensive terrain. But Yorktown had one non-negotiable condition. It was strong only if Britain controlled the sea. Cornwallis accepted that condition without securing it. He built his position on the assumption that the Royal Navy would dominate the Chesapeake when needed. That was the fatal calculation. In September 1781, around 9,000 British and Hessian troops fortified Yorktown. Redoubts were built. Artillery was positioned. The army prepared to hold until naval relief arrived. Cornwallis believed time favored him. But strategy is not about what you believe. It is about what you control. Hundreds of miles away, George Washington and the French commander, Count de Rochambeau, made a decisive pivot. Instead of attacking New York as the British expected, they marched south. Their plan depended entirely on one factor: French naval intervention. Admiral de Grasse sailed for the Chesapeake with a powerful fleet. On September 5, 1781, the Battle of the Chesapeake changed the war. The French fleet prevented British naval forces from reaching Cornwallis. It was not a catastrophic British defeat, but it was decisive. The Royal Navy failed to secure the bay. At that moment, Yorktown stopped being a base and became an enclosure. Cornwallis still hoped relief would arrive, but hope is not strategy. Without naval superiority, his army was fixed in place with no guaranteed exit. On September 28, Washington and Rochambeau arrived with nearly 29,000 American and French troops. The siege began. It was disciplined and methodical. Parallel trenches advanced steadily. Artillery batteries were positioned with precision. The encirclement tightened day by day. On October 9th, sustained bombardment shattered British defenses. Redoubts crumbled. Ammunition dwindled. Morale declined. Cornwallis attempted a desperate river crossing to escape across the York River. A storm disrupted the evacuation effort. Even without the storm, French naval control made large-scale escape nearly impossible. On October 14th, American forces under Alexander Hamilton and French troops assaulted key redoubts in coordinated attacks. They succeeded. With those outer defenses gone, Cornwallis's position was untenable. On October 17th, a British drummer signaled parley. 2 days later, on October 19th, 1781, the British army surrendered at Yorktown. Cornwallis did not lose because he lacked experience. He did not lose because his soldiers refused to fight. He lost because he positioned his army in a location whose security depended entirely on an external factor: naval dominance, and he did so without ensuring that dominance at the decisive moment. Yorktown exposes a larger truth about power. Empires often collapse not from sudden weakness, but from overconfidence in systems that have worked for generations. Britain had ruled the seas for decades. That dominance felt permanent. It was not. When French naval superiority temporarily replaced British control in the Chesapeake, the entire strategic foundation of Cornwallis's position collapsed. His harbor became confinement. His defensive base became isolation. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris formally recognized American independence. The surrender at Yorktown made that outcome inevitable. Britain did not lose America in a single afternoon. It lost America the moment an army was committed to a harbor whose safety relied on a variable it did not command. Yorktown is not merely a siege, it is a lesson in strategic dependency. When your position depends on something beyond your control, you do not hold strength, you hold risk. And in October 1781, that risk materialized. One decision, one assumption, and an empire lost a continent. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's darkest strategic failures, make sure to subscribe to History's Fatal Decisions. We have more stories of empires, errors, commercial disasters, and the human cost of bad leadership coming soon.